because it's just the system being put out. This is only, make it real. Well, look at it, check it out, see it, watch it. And when you're looking at yourself, you can't just look at yourself now. You have to, when I was 15, when I was 7, when I was 21, when I was 30, when I was 45. And for me, as it gets older, so when I was 60, you know, like, when I was 70, oh my goodness, you got all these different yous that show it in different ways. You know, so like, you give yourself leeway. You just see if it's real, see if it works. To me, it was so alive. I almost couldn't believe it. It was so vivid and alive. I was like, look at this. But in relationships, yeah, you're dealing with sun signs. You got just the sun signs. You got 144 combinations.
Yeah.
You know, if you add the moon sign, you get this. I mean, most psychological types are only 8 types or 16 types. At most, you're going to see 32 types generalizations, and everything fits into that. It's so naive. It's so like psychology is using, the psychology system is using a bread and butter knife for an operation instead of a scalpel. You can go this deeply. Like every time I go deeper, I keep finding things I didn't know astrology would go that deep. I can talk for an hour or two on any 1 minute and 40 seconds of the Zodiac.
That's amazing.
1 minute and 40 seconds seems incredible. But the more sensitive you get, the more work on it, the more it opens up like that. And you can see these at certain points, it's useful. Much of these deep divisions become really useful in progressions.
Yeah.
So I use the natal chart and I use the secondary progressions as it evolves. I don't use solar arcs. Solar arcs are like a mathematical transiting system. And it gets interpreted very mundanely. And it almost is a distraction from the spiritual voice coming up from the projection, for secondary progressions. Because it won't see, it rotates the whole chart. You don't see if Mercury, your progressed Mercury is going retrograde. Huge thing, or direct. Huge thing. 22 days is 22 years in your life when it's a progressions. And when it's stationary at its point, it's in 1 degree or it's in a 5-degree section for 20 years. Or 15, 20 years, that pentan is suddenly really super significant. So as you know your techniques with the music, you start to see the relevance of it. What's happening there? Oh, you just get intuitive insights how to use these, how to enhance what you're working on. So you don't try and control it. Yeah, Carla.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm a Pisces, and I have a lot of Piscean friends, and you know, I've done the decans or whatever, and you know, you see the little differences. But you know, I have 2 or 3 friends born like some people born the same day, 1 day away, or whatever. So the sub-pentans, like I could see it when you went through it. You know, it does, like when you know somebody that well, you can see that stuff, and it is real. Like it was pretty amazing. Thank you.
Well, like it's worth when you get the video, go through it and take, when you're playing it back, stop it when you're doing you got the sheets for the whole ephemeris, for the whole zodiac, for all the sub-pentans. Just stop them and get a screenshots of them and then print them out. You got a booklet of it. I kept meaning to put a book together of it, but with the booklet, I can get the birth data and then the explanations. It just seems so tedious, and for so much volume, I haven't done it like that. You know, maybe someday I might do. Yeah, I'm sorry, Mike.
Okay, no.
Pardon?
Debbie, go ahead.
Oh, no, I just wanted you to finish your sentence before I asked my question, because it might not be relevant to what you were just talking about right now. I just wanted to know, we can use this also for the composite chart, correct?
Yep. Composite charts, the danger in composite charts, you're taking a point between 2 people that's an imaginary point, your midpoint between things. And if it's bad, you're going to judge that badness at 2 years old, at 10 years old, for your whole lifetime. That's always going to be bad. You're never going to get out of it. That's the danger of using the composite. But if you're using the composites for the symbols of the degree of the sun, it's incredible if you use it symbolically. But if you get into the mechanical things and you're applying that to the relationship and trying to fit the relationship to it, you're going to mess up the relationship.
Well, we're doing Eva Braun and Adolf Hitler, so
My relationship astrology class.
Yeah, well, it's
astrology.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. You can see these things, but at the same time, you know, if you want to have a boyfriend, do you want just the office worker, or would you rather have a Tarzan or some dangerous wild man? You know, like in terms of how one attracts somebody, it doesn't attract somebody. Like that's its own magic. So that the social situations of war, these things coming up, we're reading into it. But on a personal level, that was their personal world. It was probably a big deal. You know, like so, but it wasn't, it was the escape from the outside. Like, who's to say? But you can go into it, you can see kind of, oh, baby, that's their slant or that's slant. Like, there's so many facets to each person. As soon as you say, oh, they were like this, you're already lost it because you're getting off on some tangent. It's just this thing when it's a whole puzzle. So the astrology gets us through, we see certain patterns and types. But in the end, everybody's a mystery. Everybody's somebody's kid. You know?
Tara?
So but the Pentans, they just add this extra level of depth. It's just a simple little extra level of depth. And you see, trust your intuitions with it. Oh, look at that. And you see if someone's using it wrong. If you've got a hyperactive kid that doesn't have boundaries, it's a little autistic and it's hurting kids at school because they don't know what they're doing. You're like, sometimes it helps in seeing the realignment.
Robin, I have a question for you. And I don't know if it's just a fluke in my own chart, but I'm wondering if you see correlations between aspects in people's charts and how the Pentans show up. So for example, I have a Scorpio sun and the Pentan is Aquarius, but I also have a quite tight conjunction between my sun and Uranus. So I wonder if you see that show up at all, kind of like a repetition.
Yeah, of course. Like we had one of the charts that had that with the sun Uranus conjunct.
Donald Trump.
So it's just experience is better than words, you know, like you can sense things better than words. Like, so we're all pumped up, but he's the fault of everything. Yet there's a whole system around him and everything else around it. It's not just one person. You know, we're seeing it as one person, one person, one person. And I'm not trying to defend him at all. Like but at the same time, when you look at someone's horoscope, he's living up to his potential. He's pushing it. And he's getting away with it. He's not being put down by the society or anything around it. It's seemingly outrageous because it's affecting people. He's making, in power, he's making crazy decisions. But whoever gets to be president is going to make their decisions. Is going to feel they're going to put their things in. It's just, so anyways, like my point is not around the political. We all have our inside and outside. You know, we all have the above the horizon and below. We all have our social functioning. We all have our sense of inner peace or self-worth or not. So that's why when we get in a difficult relationship or a bad job or we have problems outside, wow, we must be to blame. Something's wrong with me because I'm not living up to that. Okay, I'm not meeting that. So that's the below the horizon stuff. So you get a kid, you're trying to build up their ability to play, to think for themselves, do things regardless of what the system is. If you've got an autistic kid that doesn't fit in, you're still going to be playing with them and getting to use their potential to get their artistic, to express themselves as best they can, regardless of the social complications. But the social complications can be brutal. And when you have the kids in the 80s, people, not kids now, but the people born in the 80s where all the planets were within 72 degrees, you could have them all up. You have people with them all up in the 8th, 9th, and 10th houses. Or they're the sociopaths that are really controlling. They're coming into power now to control the system and the computers to control the world without much sense of individuality. That's the computer, the web came up through all of this stuff has come up through this, and it's only now with the lockdown we're seeing the threats that it's so much against love, so much against trusting each other. You know that it's hit a really paradox. How far can this go? You know, so. But that generation is playing that out. That's an extreme of 500 years before there'll be that extreme again. So some of those people have all those planets below the horizon, they don't fit in at all. Why wouldn't I just play computer games? Why bother going out? You know, so some of them all rising, all setting. These are huge statements for all the planets to be in one area. And whenever you have an extreme like that, it's not comfortable in life. You know, it's like you're in yourself. It takes a long time to get used to realize I'm supposed to be. When I had my chart done the first time, my reaction was, "You mean I'm supposed to be like this?" The first time I ever got affirmation for who I always been, "Don't do this, don't do that." I was like the hyperactive kid. "Don't do this. Oh, stop it! Oh, stop it! Oh, stop it!" All my life. It's the first time. You mean I'm supposed to be like this? It was such a good affirmation. It became my friend, became my hobby, became my career. Now 50 years has gone by. No, so it's still, but it was, we get caught in patterns, and when they block, when there's a problem, then how do you solve it? And sometimes you can solve some things socially, but not always. The deeper things, the more spiritual things are your eyes see below the horizon. Where's my confidence? Even wherever your sun is, how high you're meant to be or not in the chart. You're right. Where you go out, what you do, and what you sleep with, what your conscious comes in, that affects your dreams. Can't fight that. So then there's spiritual tools, other ways to work through some of these things. Astrology is just the map, it's not the solution. Like you get ideas, you get points, you get see things, oh, maybe this will work. So to me, it's been incredible in my life. But it's an embarrassing career, because it's like any other career, for any one good person, there's going to be 1,000 aren't so good.
Mm-hmm.
So astrology is like that zoo, but then trying to find a good lawyer, trying to find a good accountant, trying to find a good partner. Oh my God, anyway, it's the same puzzle. 1 in 1,000. If you settle for your B choice, how can you be mad when the A choice comes by? And it's too late. So we're living it. We're putting these things, we try it this way, we try it this way. We're going to try every facet of that pentan, every facet of the sign. We're trying to push it. But when you're a certain sign and you have that pentan, you're going to be biased to trying that pentan a little bit more than the other options within the sign. And those are the ones that will probably work for you better. If you had to ignore anything in charts, you'll ignore the aspects. Aspects are only how much stress is involved in it. They're not saying it's good or bad. This is stressful. You mean I got to do this? Oh my goodness, there's this. Yeah, aspects create the stress, but they're not the definition. The planets are the functions. You're going to be those planets anyways. Some people just have more stress than others, and that's normal for them. We see it as some people are more high maintenance than others. So astrologer, you can see the stress levels and the tension. That's so useful as a consultant. But to advise someone to accentuate the stress, oh, you got this stress, this aspect, you got this bad aspect, that's messing you up. That's a totally wrong way to go at it. Your planets and the signs, the houses, these are the ways of how you have to be, no matter what aspects are there, you have to be your sun sign anyways. You have to be the sun in the house. You have to make those things as best as you can, regardless of what aspects are happening there. It's a fight against it. So someone coming out of a most abusive, violent home situation still can be driven to accomplish something great. They may not be easy to live with, because they may not have worked some things through, but they still are going to go with it. So as an astrologer, you're always trying to find what's the best in a person, what's going to reinforce, what's going to affirm that person. Or if someone's in a dangerous or difficult situation. I mean, if you're going to be an astrologer and you're going to see 1,000 people over a period of time, out of 1,000 people, you've got to have seen 10 or 20 rapists, maybe 20 or 30 people that have been raped or violently hurt. You're going to have done a couple of murderers, and you wouldn't even necessarily know it. And the more difficult ones, when you have a homicidal schizophrenic or something, you have to talk to them. You don't know who you're talking to. But if they come to see you, you're in there. So it's not good or bad people. It's good or bad behavior. See, the astrology, you can get to core things, and sometimes you can find a question that just solves something for people. Sometimes I've done it, people start thought, oh, I missed it, I lost them. 10 years later, they come back and say, that made a difference. That was the beginning of starting therapy or doing something to change something. So it's reality, but what we're looking at the poetry in it. Like music's kind of like the art of God, but astrology is like the poetry or the design. But you're living it. You're a better definition of it than anything I could say.